Hi everyone, thanks for joining me today. We're starting out in the West Kootenays of British Columbia at Shelter Bay. This is a Shelter Bay ferry terminal, and we're going to take this ferry across to Galena Bay, and this is south on Highway 23. So this is actually BC Ministry of Transportation, this ferry, so there's no charge on it. And we're going to be crossing the Upper Arrow Lake. There's more than one. I guess there's a Southern Arrow Lake, so this is sometimes it's referred to as Arrow Lakes, but they're I think they're attached, like maybe a Narrows, and that's about it. So there's no priority boarding if you have a motorcycle. Typically people are used to, in BC, used to getting on first if you have a motorcycle. Here, because it's you're not paying and it's a highway thing, it's the lady at the terminal there was telling me it's first come first serve. So because sometimes I guess they have so many vehicles, yeah, you might not get on, I guess. Yeah, this ferry terminal is about 50 kilometers south of Revelstoke. So that's Highway 1, Revelstoke Highway, and that goes between Alberta and Kamloops and Cache Creek and then down to Vancouver. But if you head south from Revelstoke on Highway 23, it'll take you on this route, and it crosses over the lake. And it's not that long of a ferry ride, but it's like 20 minutes. I think it's 5 kilometers across, and that's the ferry is the MV Columbia. I think that's a picture of it there. It holds surprising large amount of vehicles, take up to 80 vehicles it says, and 250 passengers, and or I guess included. But one thing to note, I missed the sailing before this by like just a couple of minutes. So if you're coming from Revelstoke, the Shelter Bay side, the ferry leaves on the hour. And if you're on the other side, the Galena Bay side, it leaves on the half hour. So it'll save you waiting like I did almost a full hour for this ferry to come back. It's got to do a round trip. It's just a one ferry, goes back and forth. And this, you take this ferry, a lot of motorcycles, as you can see, take this route. And kind of loops around, so you go down from Revelstoke and you go down to cross this ferry and follow down to Nakusp, and then there's another ferry south of Nakusp that goes across to a place called Needles, and then that snakes up and around, comes out near Vernon, actually in Vernon, like the highway carries all the way through to Vernon, and then you can go up from Vernon, you can go up north back up to the Highway 1 as it's Salmon Arm or Sycamoose. So it's like a circle. A lot of guys on motorcycles do, and they'll there's a couple routes like that, but I know this is really popular. A few guys I know that ride it a couple times every year. There's not a lot of traffic. So, and the scenery is really nice, and I've never been on this ferry when it's been really busy. Like there's a logging truck right next to me, but there's actually I think there's maybe 2 other large trucks right now, but I've never been turned away. I've been on this a number of times. In the winter, it runs in the winter as well, and there's a between the ferry terminal Galena Bay and the cusp, there's a hot springs there, and there's also that's what I think it's called Halcyon Hot Springs, and that's one of those places that you pay, and you can actually even stay there. Rented a cabin there once, but there's also a hot spring that's like I guess just up a forestry road, and you know, it's free, and there's a number of them in this area, but a lot of people go to that, I know, but it's going to be packed, and you know, might be garbage around or something, you know, like sometimes it gets pretty trashed. A lot of people go in there and party and stuff when they're snowmobiling and that sort of thing. This is a big area for snowmobiling. People drive from quite a ways away in big trailers, and you can see how high the mountains are and stuff here. It's got really great light right now. Just in a mid-afternoon. This is towards the end of September. The colors are just starting to change on the trees, like they're starting to look like fall, but still the leaves are still there, and nice time of year. There's not a lot of traffic or anything. Almost looks kind of like Hawaii, you know, the way the hills are so green. Mountains, not really hills. But you see up that gap up there, you can see some Rocky Mountains, the white peaks there, and they go, if you go head up that direction towards a place called Trout Lake, there's a lot of places where they actually film those snowmobile videos, and that where they're doing the mountain sledding, and it's kind of a whole special thing, I guess. But they've got these really super long sleds that they go through, like, you know, 20 feet of snow, and meant to go on really deep powder up really steep hills. But so it's quite a popular place in the winter. You'd think, you know, there's not going to be a lot of traffic around here in the winter, but there's probably just as much in the winter as there is in the summer, I would think. Such a nice calm day today. First glimpses of the terminal, Galena Bay. You can see how low the lake is. I think that might be fairly common for this time of year, but it was a particularly hot and dry year this year. In the spring, you're going to have a lot higher levels on the lakes around here because of the snow melt, of course. So you'll see pretty soon here all the cars lined up on this hill. So it's a bit of a steep hill coming down. So I know in the winter I've pulled in there and it's been pretty icy because you know, there's snow on the ground and all the warm vehicles sitting there melting it, and then it freezes, so you can get pretty icy. Waiting there, it's pretty slippery. There's washrooms at both ends, just kind of, I don't think there's really anything else, but so you get here, you can use those, but there's nothing on the ferry. They really want you to stay in the vehicle, pretty much. Don't want a bunch of people roaming around and that. And one thing to watch if you are bringing motorcycles or snowmobiles or something, check into the regulations on the Ministry of Transport website about the ferries, because there's I know a guy that got turned away because he had a bunch of jerry cans full of gas that he was crossing here. It was actually in the summertime with motorcycles, like off-road motorcycles. They were heading up this way to do a long trip, and on his trailer he had a bunch of jerry cans, and they said asked him if there was gas in it, and told them they weren't allowed to transport the gas, or that amount of gas across on the ferry. So something to look into. Kind of makes sense, I guess. So if you head up the hill and just stay to the right, that's the main highway. Is going to head down towards the cusp. And if you go to the left, that takes you towards mainly a place called Trout Lake. And that's kind of a neat area. I've got a couple of videos I'm doing up there, and there's a bit of a surprise in the one that I'm going. The reason I'm actually going to Trout Lake. Something I haven't seen since the 90s, but I wanted to see if it was still there. But it's one of these, anyway, I don't want to ruin it, but that'll be in a future video. So the next one will be leaving from here, and we'll head to Trout Lake and see what I was talking about. But if you like this kind of thing, this is a little different, just sitting here watching the waves go by and stuff. But if you like this kind of thing, think about subscribing. Always appreciate it if you give it a like. But anyway, other than that, thanks again, and I'll catch you on the next one.